The world is full of liars and hypocrites. Your parents are no exception. The school you were forced to go to never understood you, and you resent the vast majority of those you grew up with. The future you were sold from a young age seems to be almost entirely made of rainbows, unicorns, and media-fed lies. Screw it. I guess the only solution to this problem is rebellion and anarchy. Right? This is exactly what the 1998 film's SLC Punk calls into question. Meet Steve-O, a 22-year-old recent college graduate going into his first year post-college. He lives in Salt Lake City, Utah in 1985, and boy does he hate it. He hates the hicks, the mods, the posers, and the Mormons whose politics have affected every last detail of the world around him. He hates the government and all forms of rule, and especially hates Hollywood actor turned conservative deity Ronald Wilson Reagan. Luckily for Steve-O, he has found a community of like-minded individuals in the form of punks. They attend and arrange local hardcore shows where chaos is always afoot. But in that chaos, they feel most alive and connected with their fellow man. Since he was young, he has had a best friend who also shares his desire to destroy the system by wasting their education, living as they please, and causing chaos whenever it feels right. His best friend's name is Bob, and Bob rules. SLC Punk is the penultimate example of a movie that does justice to the subculture it represents while also providing its own unique commentary and criticism of the ideology that creates such a group identity. There have been many films that have had punk characters or showed punk bands, but few have done it right. In most of these films, the characters are these flat caricatures, and it is evident that the writers have little first-hand knowledge of their world or possibly even look down upon it. With some of these films, it seems they might actually have disdain for the punks they're attempting to represent. This is not the case with this movie, as it's evident that the writer of the film, James Marandino, knows the culture, understands the characters, and has an affinity towards this subset of society. The characters are three-dimensional, grounded, and it is impossible not to feel for them when watching the movie as a result. As the proverbial fly on the wall that we are as an audience, we can absolutely understand them and have love for them ourselves. Let's take a look into Steve-O. He is the only child of some boomers returned from hippies into wealthy yuppies. His father, who is now a wealthy divorced attorney, attended Woodstock and loves to talk about how his friends and him got behind some causes, fought for what was right, and collectively ended the war in Vietnam. In his lifetime, he went from a hippie protesting for human rights and decency to being a slick attorney who drives a brand new Porsche, lives in a luxurious home, goes to private bougie clubs, and eats at five-star restaurants. The hypocrisy is abundant, and despite Steve-O's love for his father, which we do see throughout the film, there is little to no respect for him in this regard. In many ways, Steve-O's father represents everything that is wrong with the world in the way that the systems the world perpetuate have failed. Make no mistake though, his father is by no means a bad guy, and he never gets upset with Steve-O or for any of his antics or the way he chooses to dress and live. He smiles at a lot of it because he ultimately understands his son completely, and the conversations that they have about ideology, purpose, and what to do in life are some of the most insightful and thought-provoking conversations in the film. Two great moments in the film within this dynamic come when Steve-O, after graduating high school, tells his parents about how the system failed them and that his father has become a sellout. Before Steve-O leaves, his father tells him that he didn't sell out, rather, he bought in. It's a hilarious line and one I think about quite often in my day-to-day life.
Steven, I didn't sell out, son. I bought in. Keep that in mind.
Another comes when Steve-O and his father are having a conversation in his dad's car. Steve-O is going on a speech about why his dad should not be driving a Porsche, since he is Jewish, and his car was purchased at a Volkswagen dealership. For those unaware, Volkswagen would not be a thing without the help of a particularly nasty little man who ruined Charlie Chaplin's mustache. Steve-O's dad screams about it being just a car, and the moment is absolutely hilarious.
It's just a car, okay?
There is love there and a one-sided understanding. His father fully understands him, but Steve-O refuses to see this. Steve-O is a man on a mission to do and accomplish nothing. He wants to waste his college degree as a form of active rebellion against the system. What is funny is that several times we learn that Steve-O actually got good grades in school. Why? After all, he actively seeks to do nothing with it. Why get good grades? Why try at all? His existence in this new stage of post-college life consists of three things: fighting, partying, and talking. He loves to fight hicks, attend to parties and shows with his friends, and have ideological debates with a hippie friend of his centered around order versus chaos and anarchy. Things around him begin to change against Steve-O's best wishes though. Bob begins to date an older intellectual girl who owns a head shop and falls for her. They become intertwined, and the result of Bob's fascination is that he spends less time with Steve-O and begins to shift his outlook on the world and Salt Lake City. He plans to marry her and would even consider staying in Salt Lake City, which creates a rift between him and Steve-O, as Steve-O absolutely despises this town. Change continues to occur when one of his closest friends, Mike, leaves town to attend Notre Dame as he wants to help save the rainforest. It seems the world around Steve-O is changing, and he is the only one who isn't. This is a problem and showcases one of the key themes in the film. Living like there is no tomorrow is a poor way to live, as the reality is that 99.99999% of the time, the sun will indeed rise tomorrow, so you have to move forward. Period. Not only does the film do an incredible job of showcasing the hardcore punk scene of the mid-1980s, but it also implements a fun storytelling technique that is rarely done, and rarely done well at that. Steve-O narrates the story from the future while also breaking the fourth wall, freezing time around him and talking to the camera freely. Matthew Lillard does an absolutely amazing job with this, as he is almost a chaotic, energetic, punk rock Ferris Bueller in this film. I would absolutely put this movie into my top 5 Matthew Lillard performances. In fact, here's my quick top 5 favorite Matthew Lillard movies/characters in no particular order: Steve-O and SLC Punk, Serial and Hackers, Shaggy and Scooby-Doo, Jerry and Without a Paddle and Dennis, and 13 Ghosts. The film is told in a very non-linear way, and I absolutely love that. We jump around from moment to moment with cuts that feel slightly jarring, which gives an energy and a pace to the film that is rarely seen. The way the story is told is absolutely perfect. From start to finish, the film is engaging, interesting, and thought-provoking. This is especially the case for anyone who has a love for punk rock music or the culture around it, though the film's audience should not be limited to those who have been directly affected by the movement, as its themes are far more universal in scope than that. That being said, it is a film that absolutely understands the punk scene, and for those of us that have been deeply affected by the genre, movement, and ideology in our lives, it reads like a love letter. For me personally, punk was the only genre that existed for many, many years in my life. The little leather CD binder in my car in high school was exclusively composed of Rancid, Black Flag, Ramones, NoFX, Bad Religion, Vandals, Punkorama CDs, and more. When one of my best friends showed me this movie in high school, I was immediately in love with it. I agreed with every single thing that Steve-O said, especially in his epic rant in the first act about posers.
Posers were people that look like punks, but they did it for fashion. And they were fools.
What is funny though, is that watching the movie now, at 30 years old, I see it differently. I love the movie all the same and agree with much of what he says, but I now fully understand the perspective of the older version of Steve-O who is narrating the film, as I too view who I used to be the way he does. I was an angry little shit just like Steve-O. I hated my town and the culture within it that seemed to cultivate hickism along with small-minded thinking that masqueraded under the guise of patriotism. I went from 7 to 15 during the George W. Bush administration after all. Watching it now, I see through the perspective of Steve-O's past and future as well as his father. It is as if the film has 2 different versions based upon when you watch it, and I love movies like that. It's great to revisit a film and get something different from it than you did when you were younger. SLC Punk is an absolutely amazing movie and one of my all-time favorites. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe, as it helps a lot. I appreciate you sticking around till the end of the video. Have a great day, everyone, and remember that tomorrow, though far from guaranteed, will probably happen.